This is a Louie T Network exclusive.
Hey, either you're outside or you're
in the lab room.
Draft Zone.
Hoorah! Could be with me, your man, Louie T. Welcome. You are in the lab room, of course. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me on the 2016 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series, where your man, Louie T, aims to break down all 32 teams in the National Football League's 2016 NFL Draft by using our baseball grading scale, single, double, triple, home run. There are no strikeouts here in the Draft Wrap-Up Series, as we cannot tell how these players are going to pan out, and I don't want to discount any of these young men before they get their chance in the National Football League. And so we'll get a score for each and every single player selected by X said team in their draft. Add up all of those scores by those individual picks, divide by the number of picks. That will then yield us a final overall grade for that team's draft. We'll move on to the next team in the draft series picked by you. That's right, you, the viewer out there, is in total control over who's next in this series by simply being the first. No equivocations. You gotta be the first person to leave a comment in the comment section stating two things: next and the team you'd like to see next. And I really don't care how you phrase it, as long as those two components are in that comment and you're first, that team's gonna be up next in this series. Sounds simple enough? That's because it is, man. Okay, so we're gonna talk about a team that made it all the way to the Super Bowl last year. And it seems like every year there's some kind of drama going on in Carolina, but despite what you may perceive as something that could really tear a team apart, it usually rallies this team together, whether it's Steve Smith getting cast aside, or you got your big time receiver going down to injury, or in this offseason it's Josh Norman and that whole saga and him no longer being a Carolina Panther. Whatever the case may be, they've proven over time that this team is bigger than just one man. And so you look at this draft and you say, okay, you didn't address this in free agency because you didn't know you had a problem at the time. Now you do. Let's see what general manager Dave Gettleman does to really fix what has all of a sudden become a huge problem in Carolina, the cornerback position. And I love Dave Gettleman because you're always going to get a soundbite out of Dave Gettleman, and he laughs at me every year, and I'm used to it. And it's cool because at the end of the day, Dave's my guy. I didn't get along with Dave, and I don't always like his practices, but at the end of the day, Dave's a good dude, and Dave gives me some good fodder, and he's always good for a good soundbite or two. Last year was, hey, we not shopping at the dollar store. Really? Okay, whatever, Dave. It's cool. This year, we weren't shopping hungry. You sure, Dave? What's wrong with shopping hungry anyway, man? You ever been to Walmart? And I know I go to Walmart and I'm hungry all the damn time. The only time I go to Walmart and buy those, you ever bought the 3 for 99-cent cookies? You can't tell me that they're not good. Those are some delicious, delectable treats. I get the oatmeal raisin ones. Oh my God, I'm in heaven. I'm in cookie bliss when I eat those things, but I only get them when I'm hungry. What's wrong with shopping hungry, man? As long as the product that you're getting is of some kind of quality, there's nothing wrong with shopping hungry. So what? You threw a couple of extra sweets in the cart. Maybe you wouldn't have if you weren't hungry. As long as it's some good sweets, I'm down. So it's okay to shop hungry. You don't gotta lie to me, man. 3 corners in a draft with only 5 players? You didn't shop hungry? It's all right, man, if you say so. Let's jump into the Carolina Panthers 2016 NFL Draft anyway. Now, first round, 31st overall selection, Louisiana Tech defensive tackle Vernon Butler is the selection. This one caught me off guard. I'm not gonna lie to you because I said Panthers could go in one of a number of different directions. They could use another pass rusher maybe. They could use an offensive lineman here maybe. They could use a corner. We didn't know that they were gonna select 3 more in the next 3 picks. But at the time, hey, first round corner, Mackenzie Alexander sitting there. Who knows? options were limitless at that point, and they went defensive tackle. I'm like, did you just get rid of Josh Norman because you had 2 defensive tackles that you wanted to re-sign? Did you just go out and get Paul Soliai in free agency? Like, what are we doing here? It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, he loves his beef. And I already told you about your man, Dave Gettleman, eons ago. I said he's an old school general manager. He builds from within. And that's both sides of the football. He likes to build from within. And it may seem like he hasn't spent a lot of resources on the offensive line, but he's found some hidden gems in a guy like Andrew Norwell as an undrafted rookie free agent. And you got Trey Turner in there playing some good ball. And then you go out into that dollar store bin that you said you weren't going to shop in, pick out a few items, and voila, you got yourself an offensive line. And then on the defensive line, that's where he spent the most resources, though. Up front defensively is where this team shines, and it's because he's put forth a lot of effort into that defensive line, and guys have performed well for him. And here's another guy that's going to come in and I feel like going to be a beast for them up front. It's not a bad pick. It was just like, again, another defensive line. It's either defensive line or linebacker in the first round for these guys, it seems like. But at the end of the day, it's usually somebody on the defensive side of the football. Stands for Kelvin Benjamin about 2 or 3 years ago. It's always defense, it seems like, on that side of football, but it works. And so you're not going to get me to complain when something works out. Like I said, I may not always love Dave Gettleman's practices, but if it works, I'm a results-based guy. And if you're getting results, sign me up. And so in the first round, no, I'm not going to break this dude down. I've already done that. All they're going to do is put him into the mix with L.A.B and K1 Short and all the rest of the guys they got up front wreaking havoc, and he's going to do the same thing. Big, athletically gifted defensive tackle. This guy's going to come in and be a physical presence up front, and an athletic one at that for the Carolina Panthers. Gives them a little bit of size in there. K1 Short, not the biggest guy in terms of height. Neither is L.A.B. This guy's going to come in there at 6'5" and be a disruptive force for the Carolina Panthers in the first round. 31st pick overall, Louisiana Tech defensive tackle Vernon Butler is back on the track, way back. You can put it on the board. Yes, the home run in the first round for the Carolina Panthers as they go out and get another defensive tackle to bolster that front seven in Vernon Butler. You go to the second round, and this is where, man oh man, my man Dave got hungry and went to the store. Even though he said he wasn't shopping hungry, you damn lie. You bet your ass he was hungry when he went to the store here. Threw a bunch of sweets in the cart, and he started in the second round, 62nd pick. Sanford quarterback James Bradbury was the selection. Every year I feel like with the Carolina Panthers early in the draft, well, I won't say every year. That's an over-exaggeration. That's a hyperbole there. I won't go there, but it seems like and if you're a Carolina Panthers fan, you probably have some intel as to what Dave Gettleman is thinking, but this is one of those situations where I kind of scratched my head. I think everybody was sitting in anticipation of the pick, and then it's James Bradbury, and everybody looks around and says, who? James who? And so, this was fun to go and try to figure out what this guy was about, because I think this was one of the cases where you could have probably gotten James Bradbury in like the 4th round, or I can't confirm nor deny that. I don't know who else thought that this guy was a really good prospect and someone that would you spend a 2nd or 3rd round pick on, but I'd like to think that you probably could have gotten James Bradbury in the 3rd or the 4th round. So right there, I'm a little iffy on the pick, but 6'1", 211 pounds is a long physical corner. And I think the first thing that I saw with this guy is he's a smooth, fluid athlete. He ran a 4.5 40 at the combine, so that solidified his athleticism. With that size at 6'1", 211, and we all know what he's trying to do basically is he's trying to replace Josh Norman. He's looking for a Josh Norman type clone out there. And if you can get 2 of them in one draft, why the hell not, And I think 2 of these guys are interesting. One of them, I already know what he is as a corner, and we'll talk about him when we get there, but this is the guy that I'm intrigued by. And you look at his length, and it's a ridiculous amount of length here. This is one of the things that I think makes him a very ideal candidate in this cover 3 heavy scheme that the Panthers run. that allows you to keep eyes on the quarterback and make plays in the football. Even when this guy is beaten, his length is going to help him win. And he's got 33 3/8 inch arms, which is ridiculous. Keep in mind that as an offensive tackle, Taylor Decker, who is 6'7", has 33 and like a half inch arms. This guy has 33 3/8 inch arms, which is absurd. Okay, so you're talking about a guy with probably a wingspan of a guy that's like 6'6", 6'7", 6'8". It's ridiculous. So this guy, his arms are freakishly long, which gives him an advantage. And he's an excellent tackler. And that's probably one of the things that, again, he's going to separate himself from some of these other guys in this draft, because I told you, with cornerbacks, much like with receivers and blocking, cornerbacks and tackling, it's a mindset, it's a mentality. It's optional sometimes. I mean, you're not going to beat a guy up if he's not a great blocker, if he's a playmaker. You're not going to beat a really good corner up if he doesn't really tackle. I mean, if he's a playmaker and he goes out and balls, are you going to kill him like Deion Sanders, for instance? Wasn't the greatest tackle in the world. He made a bunch of business decisions. Were you going to beat Deion Sanders up because he wasn't out there knocking guys down? No, you weren't, because he was Deion Sanders. If you can tackle and you want to tackle, much like rebounding in the NBA, if you want to rebound, you can. It's a mindset. But most guys don't want to, and so they don't. Well, this guy wants to tackle. And you love that in a cornerback, because that lets you know there won't be any runs, no free passes to the outside on your defense on some running plays, because you know that guy's going to be out there ready to cut a running back down if he tries them on the outside. Can play press or off coverage. And so, again, scheme diverse. You can push this man up to the line of scrimmage and say, we're going to blitz, need you to get in the face of this receiver, jam him up, hem him up at the line of scrimmage, throw off the timing of the quarterback to see if you can't allow us to hit home on this blitz. Or you can say, hey, we coming after the quarterback. I want you to squat on anything, play off, squat on anything short because it's 3rd and 4. We're coming after this guy. If he throws this slant, I want you to jump it. Okay, so he can play off, he can play press. You like that? Scheme diverse. Tracks the football, okay? Does he have the greatest ball skills in the world? No, but he does see the football when it's in flight, which gives him an opportunity to try and either make a play or at least disrupt the receiver from catching the football, which is my final pro for him. Does a really good job with PBUs. Does a great job of breaking up the football in the air, and I think a lot of that has to do with those long arms that I referenced earlier. That long wingspan gives him a chance. Even when he's a step behind that receiver, he stretches out those go-go gadget arms, and all of a sudden, that football is finding the turf. So he does a really good job of tracking the football in the air and then making a play on the football or the receiver or both, and which usually results in an incomplete pass. We saw that at the Senior Bowl. He did a really good job at the Senior Bowl of knocking the football away, driving on it, and getting to the receiver as the football got there simultaneously and knocking it to the ground. You go to his cons. His eyes can get him in trouble, and it's not uncommon for a corner who is aggressive, who comes up in press or plays off, especially when you're in off coverage. This is usually when this happens. It's not uncommon for a guy to be nosy sometimes, looking in the backfield, seeing what the quarterback's up to, and allowing a receiver to run right by him, and eyeballs are getting him in trouble because he sees the quarterback sticking that football out there. He's reading run, it's pass, and all of a sudden, his guy has now gotten a step or two on him. It's not uncommon for that to happen. And so he's one of those guys that his eyes can deceive him at times. Doesn't have elite ball skills is the next con. I don't think that he's a guy necessarily that's going to wow you with what he brings to the table in terms of ball skills. He's not the one that I think is going to be the guy out of this group of corners. But I think he brings a skill set to the table that I say to myself, if this guy doesn't work out the way that they want him to at cornerback, there's always life after corner at safety for James Bradberry. So I think that's something that's going to be very beneficial to him if cornerback doesn't end up being his natural position at the next level. I think he can make a seamless transition to safety, but right now I don't think his ball skills are something that really excites me, gets me lathered up, and makes me feel like this guy's going to come in and have an immediate impact as a guy that can flip the field and change the game for the Carolina Panthers in that secondary, relies on length more than instincts. And that's, to me, the biggest con you get out of this guy. I think sometimes he doesn't trust his eyes. And what happens is then he allows the receiver to get a step on him, whether it's an inside breaking route or it's something down the field. He'll allow a receiver to get on top of him or get inside of him and get the leverage that he needs to catch the football. And then what ends up happening is then he has to rely on his length late in the play to try to rebound and save face. So again, that length does come into play, but sometimes I think he relies too heavily on that length to bail him out instead of just going and making plays. I've seen a number of times on tape where I'm like, you could have probably picked that off if you just would have went and drove on that football. You saw what was happening. You saw the route combination. You understood what was going down, but instead he wanted to play it safe. And he stayed back. He didn't trust his eyes. He didn't break on the football fast enough. And instead, he had to go and at the last second reach in with those long arms and knock the football away. And I thought he could have actually stepped in front of that and took those cookies and said, yum, yum, eat them up. Yum, yum, eat them up. Instead, it's a knockdown. Look, it's all the same when you force a punt on 3rd down and 9 because you knocked the football away. And you love to flip the field position because a turnover always gives you better field position than 9 times out of 10 a punt will. But at the end of the day, you just want to get the football back to your offense. But what happens when that turns into a completion? Sometimes I just feel like he needs to play with more instincts, be a little bit more proactive instead of reactionary and looking to win with that length. Instead of that, go and make a play with your length and not just going to get a knockdown and a pass breakup with your length. But at the end of the day, in the second round, 62nd pick, Sanford cornerback James Bradbury for me is a double. I think they somewhat reached on this pick, and I'm not one to tell you when you are supposed to go and get your guy. If you feel like that's your guy, go get your guy. When you feel the need to go get your guy, you know how I feel about that in the draft. That being said, this one feels and smells like when the Raiders took safety Mike Mitchell in the second round and everybody else was looking around like, were you going to take him in the second round? And all the other teams in the league were like, nah, I want them to try and mess with him until about the 5th round. And the Raiders said, we got you suckers. We took him in the second round. Now nobody else is getting him. I feel like James Bradbury would have been around in probably, let's say, the 4th round. And even if you were a little antsy, you could have picked him in the 3rd round. I thought there were better options on the board at cornerback in the 2nd round when you selected. But maybe you felt like you just wanted to get this guy who fit the profile of what a Carolina Panther cornerback is supposed to be. And you wanted to get him before anybody else did. And so you did. I don't have a problem with that. I'm just not blown away by what this guy brings to the table. Love his measurables, love his athleticism, love his length. I just didn't see enough from a playmaking standpoint to feel comfortable giving him anything other than a double. You move on to the 3rd round, 77th pick, cornerback out of West Virginia, Daryl Worley is the selection. Now, this is the guy that I feel like is going to take that step forward and say, I'm the guy. It's me. The guy that's replacing Josh Norman, I think it's going to be this guy. Now, don't ask me when that's going to happen because I see a very aggressive approach with these corners. I think Dave Gettleman is trying to fast track these boys into the lineup because there's really nothing at cornerback on this football team. The cupboard is relatively bare. That's why he went shopping hungry, folks. There's nothing there, man. He went to the pantry. The man was hungry on a late night binge. He went to the pantry, opened it up, and guess what he saw? Nothing. It was no snacks in there. So you know what he said? Damn, I'm hungry. I want a snack. He went to the store and found a bunch of snacks at the store, man. And Daryl Worley, to me, is going to be the guy that I think is going to get an opportunity to show what he's about because he's a playmaker with length. And that's what Josh Norman was. And I think that's why Daryl Worley could be the guy to take that step forward and say, it's me. I'm the guy that you were looking for to replace Josh Norman. Now, there's no replacing an all-pro right now, okay? Don't expect the guy to jump in year 1 and be what Josh Norman was his last year in Carolina. It's not happening. It may take 2, it may take 3, it may even take 4 years. You might not even see what you're looking for until the final year of this man's rookie contract. But at the end of the day, I think Daryl Worley is going to be the guy that's going to step up. Let's talk about it. 6'1", 204 pounds. That's some good size, much like James Bradbury. Excellent size for the position. Long playmaking cornerback, and I mean that in every way, shape possible. Aggressive nature and mindset. Love Daryl Worley in the way that he attacks the football. I like the way that he thinks as a corner. The man is not afraid to get beat and have that selective memory, okay? look, you're going to get beat as a corner, especially when you're as aggressive as this. This guy will come up in your face, delete the airspace, and challenge you at the line of scrimmage. And when you do that, you're going to get beat, especially when you're up against some of the best of the best of the best. You're going to get roasted sometimes. And trust me, his ass got roasted at West Virginia. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. But the man came back that very next play like, all right, you got me. That was a good one. You got me. All right, but I'm still here, man. I ain't going nowhere. I'm going to be here all day. And I like that aggressive mindset. And I like smart football players as well. There's a play against TCU. Josh Doctson runs a deep backside post on the other side of the field. Beats the cornerback on that side. And Worley is checking his receiver on the other side of the field. His guy runs a hitch. Doesn't really leave the line of scrimmage, so Worley starts sagging off. He watches the quarterback, reads his eyes, sees he's going to Josh Doctson on the other side of the field. What does he do? He runs and tracks the football all the way on the other side of the field, comes and makes the play, knocks it away from Josh Doctson, who was going to go and get that football 35 yards down the field. That's a smart, heady football player. That's that aggressive mindset I'm talking about. A guy looking to make a play. Tremendous ball skills. 10 career interceptions, 6 of those bad boys came just last season. So this guy is a ball hawk. He is a playmaker. Remember, we're talking about a junior here, folks. Not a redshirt junior. We're talking about a true junior here. We're talking about a guy that played 3 years of college football. And you know, that first year, usually, you might get some run, but you're not making a bunch of plays in that freshman season. That sophomore year, that's when you start to get it. That junior year, that's when things really start to click. If you started as a freshman, here's a guy with 6 interceptions in his junior season, 10 career interceptions in a 3-year collegiate career. That's 10 more interceptions than Mackenzie Alexander had at Clemson. I kid, man. I digress. But this guy is a playmaker. He's looking to go get the football. Awesome size for the position. I've already mentioned that as a pro. I'm going to mention it again because I love his size, much like James Bradbury. I think that is tremendous size at 6'1", over 200 pounds. Gives you that physicality and that girth you're looking for, but also gives you that height and that length to go attack the football against these big trees out at receiver. We know this league is full of big, physical, but athletically gifted receivers. You play in a division with probably the best to offer in the league in terms of height, weight, speed, specimen, and Julio Jones. So all I'm saying is you need big boys to go up against a guy like that, and I think this is a guy that could potentially do that for you in Carolina. Tracks the ball in flight. Probably his best attribute right now, outside of his mindset, is him tracking the football in. At all times, Daryl Worley is looking for the football in the air. And I love it. If you're a cornerback, how you gonna make a play on something you don't see, okay? If you don't know what a football is, and you're not willing to find out because you're trailing the receiver on the play, guess what? You can't make a play. What if the football's underthrown and it's coming right to you? You'll never know because you're not looking for the football. Well, you don't got to worry about that with Daryl Worley. He's always looking for the football. And if he's got a chance to make a play on it, you bet your bottom dollar he's going up and he's trying to make a play on the football. Great in zone coverage, key in quarterback's eyes. And I talked about that already, gave you a great example versus TCU. Okay, Boykin is back at quarterback. He drops back. He's looking for his main man, Josh Doctson, down the field. On the opposite side of the field, away from Worley. Worley reads and keys quarterback eyes, says, I see where you're going with this football. My man isn't doing anything. I'm staying deeper than the deepest in cover 3 over here. I said, all right, I see my teammates over here struggling on this backside post. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go make a play on this football to help him out. That's what I talk about when I say key in quarterback's eyes. He sees what's going on. He's able to go make a play. You don't get 6 interceptions if you don't do a really good job of A, locating the football, B, key in quarterback's eyes, and C, having ball skills to go make a play with some hands to go and grab that football after seeing what's going on. So you get all of those things and together, mixed together, and the perfect storm is created, and you get a guy that ends up being a ball-hawking playmaker for you at the cornerback position. And my final con for Daryl Worley, or excuse me, pro for Daryl Worley is he's always in the play. This guy's always in the play. And what I mean by that is you'll get some corners where they'll get nosy and they'll be looking in the backfield like a James Bradbury or like a Zach Sanchez, who I'll be talking about next, where these guys will be fixated on what's going on and they'll get caught up on some double move action, or they'll get caught up looking at the quarterback, play action fake, get smoked for a 55-yard touchdown, and they're nowhere to be found in the picture. All right, nothing worse than, damn, who's checking that guy? You never want to ask that question. checking him? How did he get that wide open? And then they play the replay back. He's like, oh, hell. He done got caught up on some double move action, man. Go ask Vernon Hargraves III in that Michigan game, that bowl game, what happened to him on that double move. He wasn't even in the picture, man. You don't have to worry about it with Daryl Worley. Even when he gets beaten, even when this dude gets smoked, he's always within striking distance. He's always, and I mean always, in the play. We're going to talk about that here with his cons as we move on to his cons. Will get smoked in press coverage, all right? So go turn on, and he played in the Big 12. So you know, it's run and gun, man. It's survival of the fittest out there. It's the wild, wild west where defense is optional, okay? He played in a conference where if you weren't putting up 55 points, you won't doing nothing, man. So you got your Baylors of the world, your Oklahomas, man. These dudes was out there giving him work. Now, Corey Coleman, go watch the Baylor game. Corey Coleman gave this young man work in the first quarter. So much so that I think the game plan was we're going to take our best corner and we're going to put him on Corey Coleman and we're going to take Corey Coleman out of the game and see what happens. I think after the first quarter, they rethought that game plan and said, you know what? We're going to take away all the rest of these dudes and we're just going to let Corey Coleman abuse somebody else, because Corey Coleman went to work on Daryl Worley in that first quarter. I want to say to the tune of about 4 catches for about 88 yards and a touchdown on just like 2 possessions. I mean, he was giving him work. And that touchdown on the slant, everybody gets beat on slants. I seen Darrell Reeves get beat by Pierre Garçon like he stole something on the slant last year in the end zone for a touchdown. It happens. But he broke him off. Ha! Stepped inside and Darrell, oh, what the hell just happened to my ankles? Touchdown. Easy walk in. So Daryl Worley got worked, is what I'm basically telling you. He tried to come up and press Corey Coleman. Corey Coleman said, hey, stop that, man. You're dealing with 4-3 speed. You don't want this. Too late. Gone. Caught the football. Guess where Daryl Worley was, though? Right in the play, made the tackle, but it was still like a 47-yard gain. Set him up for the touchdown, and he got broken off on the slant for the touchdown. So he got worked in that game. Oklahoma. If you remember, they were playing Oklahoma, and that was the big hit, the one that I talk about with Carl Joseph all the time, on Westbrooks down the sideline. The reason why Westbrooks was open and was going to catch the football if Carl Joseph doesn't come and decapitate him is because he beat Daryl Worley off the snap and smoked him down the sideline. And so Carl Joseph had to come and clean up the mess that Daryl Worley made. So he can be beat off the line of scrimmage. There's another play where they come with an all-out blitz, does West Virginia, and he's one-on-one on the outside with a receiver who beats him to the inside on a slant. And if the ball is put in the right position, it was behind him and he ends up dropping it. If it's put out in front of him, he scores a touchdown from about 25 yards out on a slant, beats Worley to the inside, so he can be beat in press coverage. But I still like the mindset. I still love the mentality that he's not going to back off even though you beat him. So even though it's something that he's going to have to work on technique-wise, going to have to get better jams off at the line of scrimmage, going to have to do a better job of footwork when guys beat him off the line of scrimmage and recovering, he's still a guy with that mindset that, all right, I'm going to wipe that from the memory bank. I'm coming back and I'm going to get back in your face and challenge you again. Doesn't go looking for work or doesn't get off of blocks. Okay, have a problem here, but it is what it is. Unlike James Bradbury, who you took in the second round, this guy's not looking for work as a tackler. He is not looking for work, man. If you block, he's one of these guys that he'll make a pact with the receiver before the game. All right, check this out, Playboy. All right, I'm not trying to make too many tackles, so if you want to block me and you just want to kind of take a play off, we can do that together. I won't try to go be aggressive. If you don't be over aggressive with me, we good. And so if there's an understanding, an unwritten rule between he and the receiver that if you just come with a little half-hearted block attempt, I'll stay in front of you and we'll both look like we trying hard and we'll be good. But he's not, if you don't block him now, he will go and be a problem on that play. But if he gets blocked, oh, you got me. I can't help you, I'm sorry. He's not getting off of blocks. He's not going looking for work. If the guy runs to him, yeah, I'll escort him out of bounds. I'll cut his legs from under him. But if this guy cuts inside, he cut inside, I don't know what y'all want me to do. So that's something you're going to have to get Daryl Worley to be better at. He is not a guy looking for work as a tackler. He is not a guy you want to rely on for run support on the outside. I'm just warning you right now. His eyes will betray him. That's the final con. And much like James Bradbury, and much like aggressive, you'll get this out of aggressive corners. I talked about Vernon Hargreaves III and how he's a guy that's susceptible to the double move. If you're an aggressive corner, and we'll talk about another aggressive corner here in a second, if you're an aggressive corner, your eyes will betray you at some point because you want to make a play. You want to jump that slant. Well, it's a slant and go. It's a sluggo. You just got, my man. So his eyes will get him in trouble sometimes, but for the most part, like I said, he does a really good job of staying in the play. At least I can see him on the screen, and he's within striking distance on just about every play. I really like Daryl Worley a lot, man. I think of all the corners you took when you were shopping hungry, this is the one that I think is going to step up and be the guy when it's all said and done. In the third round, 77th pick overall, cornerback out of West Virginia, Daryl Worley for me is a triple. Love his game, love his mindset, love his playmaking ability, and I love his size. And this is a guy that can run. I think Dave Gettleman got it right here in the third round with Daryl Worley. I think this is a guy that has a chance to come in. The only thing I really don't like about him is that he doesn't want to tackle. But again, I talked about this with James Bradbury. It's a mindset. And that's one mindset that he doesn't have is one of a tackling corner. You go to the fifth round, 141st pick overall, Oklahoma cornerback Zach Sanchez is the selection. 5'11", 185 pounds, feisty. He's aggressive corner, very instinctual. This is a guy that makes a lot of plays off of instincts. I talked about James Bradbury and him lacking instincts. That's not something you worry about with Zach Sanchez. He's a guy that is very instinctual, looking to jump routes, and if he's seen the route combination before, if you get him with it once, don't come back with it again or you're going to pay for it that second time around because he's going to drive on that route and look to make you pay. Ball hawk. I talked about Worley being a guy that made plays. 15 career interceptions for Zach Sanchez. And the difference between he and Worley was a junior, Zach Sanchez was a senior. So I think if you would have gave Worley one more year, he probably would have had about 15, 16 interceptions in his career. Well, Zach Sanchez, 15 interceptions in his career, 7 of them came last year. So him and Worley doing work out there, making quarterbacks pay for mistakes in their general vicinity. This dude is a ball hawk, and you gotta love that. With the kind of defense that the Panthers play up front, you're gonna get opportunities to make plays. Go ask your safety, Kurt Coleman last year. You're gonna get some opportunities to make some plays and have some balls fall in your lap. You would love to have a guy like Zach Sanchez that's gonna take advantage of some opportunities to make some plays on the football. Tackles well. Unlike Daryl Worley, and much like James Bradbury, this is a guy that's gonna get physical. And it's funny because at $185, this dude doesn't care, man. He'll throw his body around, come in, make a tackle. I love his aggressive mindset from a tackling standpoint. I wish I could take that mindset and give it to Daryl Worley, who doesn't want any part of tackling. Zach Sanchez says, I don't give a damn that I'm $185. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to get physical with somebody and get them down on the ground. Selective memory, and you got to have that as a corner. You're going to get roasted sometimes. And Zach Sanchez, not as athletically gifted as neither James Bradbury or Daryl Worley. So you're going to get roasted. When you come up and challenge some guys, I think of the Kevin White game last year, or 2 years ago, 2014. Kevin White put on a show against Zach Sanchez. I see a guy that he wanted to be physical with Kevin White. You don't want to be physical with a guy that's so much bigger than you, so much faster than you. And Kevin White put on a show versus Zach Sanchez. Ate him alive, okay? And so it didn't matter though. Even after he just gave up a 70-yard touchdown to Kevin White, he's still right here, back in his face. All right, man, you got me. Here I am though. I'm back at you. So he's a guy with selective memory. And as a cornerback, you gotta have that. That has got to be something that is innate in you to be able to bounce back after getting roasted, because it's gonna happen. You're gonna get beat as a corner, then you gotta rebound and come back and act like it never happened. Very competitive. This is a dude that is extremely competitive. And at 185, you'll see him be overmatched sometimes. I think about Kearis Garrett against Tulsa in 2015. Kearis Garrett was giving him work, but he was so feisty, so competitive. Even when he was hanging on to Kearis Garrett's leg and just hoping for somebody to come help him, he was still out there giving it everything he had against a receiver that was about 5 inches bigger than him and about 30 pounds heavier than him, and he was still out there. Same thing against Kevin White. He was still competitive. You could see the feistiness. This guy wanted to win, and you can see that in Zach Sanchez. I love it. Want more of it. Always looking for the ball, much like Daryl Worley. It's another guy. You don't get 7 interceptions without looking for the football, okay? I don't really have to explain this to you. You get the concept. When you get a bunch of turnovers, when you force a bunch of turnovers, when you pick the football off on a regular basis, as Worley and Zach Sanchez did in college, you're looking for the football. And there's a reason why you force turnovers, because you know where the ball is and you're able to make plays on it. And speaking of which, let's go to his cons. Over-aggressive. The double move can be this man's undoing, all right? I think of the Kevin White game already in 2014 versus West Virginia. Kevin White gave him a ill double move. He bit it. Bit on that damn double move, hook, line, sinker. Kevin White takes off down the sideline. Walk. Remember I talked about being in the picture? He wasn't in the picture on that one. That was an easy walk-in, 70-yard touchdown for Kevin White. You'll get that from Zach Sanchez from time to time. His size. He has trouble with bigger receivers. Again, 5'11", 185. Go figure, right? Tulsa in 2015 versus Kearis Garrett, he struggled in that game. Kevin White in 2014, he struggled in that game. Bigger receivers give him problems, but he still fought against both of those receivers, made his fair share of plays in both of those games. So again, you got a dude that is extremely competitive, and even when he is outmatched, he's still gonna give you everything he's got. And finally, he only played as a boundary right side cornerback. So that scares me a little bit, because I look at him and I say, you probably need to play in the slot at the next level. And I don't want to put this man in a box and tell him you can't play out wide because you're not big enough. But I think he would be better served playing in the slot. But I didn't see him play in the slot, and there's a reason he probably didn't play in the slot. Is because he's probably not comfortable. It's a different animal. I want you to understand that just because you can play corner outside doesn't mean you can play corner inside. It takes a special, specific type of cornerback with a certain set of skills, specific skills to play in the slot. You can't just take anybody and throw them in the slot. A boundary corner is a boundary corner for a reason, because they know they've got out of bounds to protect them. They only have to cover a certain portion of the field. When you're in the slot, you gotta cover everywhere. Inside, outside, up the field, coming back, all of that is all fair game. And so I don't know if this guy can go in the slot or not. I think I'd be more comfortable with him in the slot because of his size, but then again, we'll see. He's feisty enough to play outside. I don't know if he possesses enough speed to play outside. We will see what the Panthers decide to do with Zach Sanchez, but I didn't see him play in the slot, which worries me as we make the transition to the National Football League. But in the 5th round, 141st pick of the draft, Oklahoma cornerback Zach Sanchez for me is a double. Love what this guy brings to the table. Love his feistiness. He would have been a triple. If I would have seen him play a quarter, a fraction of his snaps in the slot, I would have felt a lot more comfortable, and I would have gave him a triple, because I would have said, I see a future for you in the slot. Maybe he's an outside boundary corner and they feel comfortable with him out there and they don't care about his size, because the dude's a playmaker, but he's gonna be susceptible to double moves. He's gonna struggle against bigger receivers. So I don't know what the intentions are of the Panthers. We'll see, but I love Zach Sanchez's mindset and his ability, and we'll see how the Panthers are able to get the most out of him at the cornerback position. You go to the 7th round, round out this draft, 252nd pick overall. Montana State tight end Bo Sandlin is the pick. 6'4", 253-pound tight end. Good athlete, 4'7", 440. With long arms, 34-inch arms. I hate to keep harping on arms, but when you're a guy that plays with Cam Newton, who is erratic at times with the football, you want to give him as big of a target to throw the football to as possible. You want that zone to throw the football to be as wide as possible. So that catch radius for Bo Sandlin is bigger because he's already 6'4" and he's got 34-inch arms. So that's going to help him with Cam Newton in that offense. Can get vertical and make explosive plays. You watch him in a number of games. I watched him against Portland State. I watched him against Cal Poly. I watched him in a couple of 3 or 4 games. The theme there was explosive vertical plays. So that's a guy that can get up the field, catch the football, get yards after the catch. He's a guy that can make you some explosive plays up the field. Can use his size to high point the football. This guy can climb the ladder, go up and get the football. Again, those 34-inch arms, they come into handy and interplay when you talk about a guy being able to go up and high point the football, as Bo Sandlin can do. Rack. He run after the catch. I talked about him being able to stretch the field and get up the field, make plays vertically, and be explosive. That's where you get the run after the catch. He's a guy that can make you miss out in space, leap over a defender, get up the field, long strides. He's a guy that can make some things happen after he gets the football in his hands. Upside, I think this guy's still raw at the position. A number of things he needs to fine tune, but I think there's a lot here to work with if you're the Panthers, and I think that's why you take a flyer on a guy here in the 7th round, because you feel like there's a lot of upside and growth that's still left with this guy. A lot of untapped potential in Bo Sandlin. You go to his cons, not a great blocker, and that's one of the first things that I think if you're the Panthers, you look at it and you say, all right, that's where we got to make this guy better at. Is this guy can catch the football. He's a really good pass catcher. He's a guy that's fundamentally sound from that standpoint. We don't worry about his athleticism, any of that. We need to make him a better blocker. We want him to be on the field all 3 downs. We want this guy to be someone that doesn't come in and be a tall tale sound and, okay, this is a pass. We don't want him to come in and give away that this is a pass. We want him to be able to be on the field on run downs and be able to use play action fake and get him out on the route and have him get open that way as well. Transfers, that's the next con. This guy started out at JUCO at Pierce College. He then goes from there to Miami, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, goes to the U, he's about to go blow up. And it gets about 6 catches on the season and says, this isn't for me, and then transfers to Montana State. Now, normally I don't dock a guy for saying to himself, I need to make the best decision for me. Okay, and if transferring to Montana State is the best decision for you, by all means, go knock yourself out. But my problem was you went to Miami. Were you not good enough to get on the field? Were you not good enough? Was the competition too stiff? Why did you have to leave? Why weren't you able to earn your way onto the field and make some things happen at Miami? I don't know the answer to that. I wasn't there. I'm not here to criticize. All I know is that he transferred to play against lesser competition and dominated lesser competition. When he was at Miami, he didn't do so. And maybe he got there late, and because he transferred there, and because guys were already there that knew the offense, this, that, and the third, he wasn't able to get on the field. I don't know the answer to that. All I know is that he transferred away from elite competition to lesser competition, and so that's something that I question with him. And finally, route running needs work, okay? But the final con with him is I don't see a great route runner. I see a guy that wins with athleticism right now. And when you're playing against Cal Poly, when you're playing against Furman, when you're playing against Portland State, you can win with just athleticism. It's not a lot of guys running around there that's going to play in the National Football League. So you just being a guy that can run, that's a long strider, you can beat guys off the line of scrimmage and win and get up the field and make some big plays. What happens when you've got guys that are just as fast, if not faster than you, covering you, that's just as big, if not bigger than you? Now you need to have more precise route running, and I don't think he has precise route running at this time. That's something I think he needs to work on. But in the 7th round, you get a height, weight, speed specimen here in Bo Sandlin at the tight end position that needs a little bit of work. I like him. I think he's a double. Nice little flyer you take late in the draft as an athletic guy that can help Cam Newton in this offense in the passing game. If he develops correctly, you'll have a guy that'll be waiting in the wings when Greg Olsen is no longer producing at the ridiculous level that he is doing right now. And so that's the Carolina Panthers draft. Let's quickly break down what they were able to accomplish here. 1st round home run with defensive tackle Vernon Butler. 2nd round, James Bradbury, cornerback out of Samford, is a double. 3rd round, Darryl Worley, cornerback out of West Virginia, is a triple. 5th round, Zach Sanchez, cornerback out of Oklahoma, is a double. And in the 7th round, to round out your draft, tight end Bo Sandlin is a double as well. Gonna have to dock the Panthers a point here, give them a point, but also hit them with a penalty because they only had 5 players. And I made up a new rule this year. If you don't have at least 6 draft picks, then I have to dock you one, and I gotta penalize you for that. I almost don't want to penalize the Panthers for this because we know about Dave Gettleman's track record. It speaks for itself. He doesn't like having 7, 8, 9 player drafts. He's a guy that's comfortable with the 5, 6 player draft. He's really comfortable with a 5 player draft because, again, when you're at the level that he is and with his roster set the way that it is, you're not going to have a bunch of open space for guys to make your team. Why take 9 players and, only 4 of them are going to make your team anyway? So I get the logic. I almost don't want to penalize him. And then, to make matters worse, they also had one of the best free agent, undrafted rookie free agent pools that they signed. They got the Duke safety, Jeremy Cash, and they also got Kiaris Garrett out of Tulsa, which to me are 2 of the best players that didn't get drafted. I'm amazed that Jeremy Cash didn't get drafted. I'm blown away that somebody didn't say, all right, this is an athletic, physical safety in a box. Let's just take a flyer on this guy. And so to get those 2 players on your football team, I think both of those guys are going to make your roster. Tremendous value there in addition to your draft. So I almost don't want to dock you, but that's the rules. I got to bite you. So You get a home run, you get a triple, you get 3 doubles, which nets you a doubles bonus, which gives you 15. It would have been 15 divided by 5, which would have been a triple, but I got to dock you with this penalty. I'm going to give you a point, make it 16, but I'm also going to give you an additional draft pick, make it 16 divided by 6, which gives you a 2.67 double for the Carolina Panthers in their 2016 NFL draft. So you went shopping hungry. I don't mind. I thought it was a really solid draft of the players that you did select. Let's see what the Panthers do with what they have done in this 2016 NFL draft. That's the Carolina Panthers in the 2016 NFL draft. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the lab room. Come back and join me as I continue to break down anything and everything in the National Football League. Who's next? Bart Scott. Can't wait.
There's plenty more where that came from. While you're here, subscribe to the channel. If you want more Louie T, be sure to follow me on Twitter at In the Lab Room, or you can like the Facebook page at In the Lab Room. That's In the Lab Room on Facebook and at In the Lab Room on Twitter. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so.